We need to stop it now. Do not just read over it. Do not take it for granted. Do not be complacent. We need to tell other Americans, and many of you have contacts in the business community. You know, there's another community that needs to be energized. They're all, frankly, trying to go along. This is not a time for going along. We need to reach out to them and tell them our democracy is at stake. They know that diversity in their workplaces, equity and inclusion makes them stronger.
My name is Nicholas. I actually work in this building with the special needs population. And the question I have is, most of the problems that we're seeing these days seem to be the executive branch and relying on the judiciary to help us. Congress, senators, do you have any plans, whether it be now as the opposition party or in the future when things may swing back or in power, to kind of build out safeguards for your branch of government? Because right now, it just seems like these other groups are coming in to take your power to kind of assert control over spending everything that is legislated.
What's the question?
The question is, if there's anything that you guys are planning to do to safeguard that in the future?
Hi, my name is Karen Weinrod. I'm from West Hartford. Quick question related to the evisceration of USAID and the foreign aid freezes. My son's company, which is a long-time NGO, global health NGO, furloughed 80% of its staff in this past week. LinkedIn and his account is full of his colleagues and friends who have no jobs. So the question is, for the glimmers of hope being provided by tiny waivers here and there, like PEPFAR in Africa, is there the possibility that there really will be continued funding for some of these efforts, and will the NGOs be paid?
This is a longer conversation, but Congress has empowered the executive over the course of decades in a way that is indefensible, right? I have been fighting for a long time on the issue of war powers, right? I have brought resolution after resolution on the floor of the Senate with Democratic presidents and Republican presidents to deny presidents the ability to go to war without the consent of the people. And so you are right, this is a moment for us to take a step back and have some self-reflection on what the legislative branch has done to empower an executive to be even in a position to get away with this kind of corruption. So count me in for that work. On USAID, the court order yesterday puts all those USAID employees back to work. I can report to you early this morning, an email went out to all USAID employers and contractors that they are to report back on the job, and so those contractors I'm a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Many of you know I'm deeply engaged in foreign policy. I've spent much of the last 3 days digging into this waiver process. The idea was that, the funds were frozen, but you could petition the king, right, to have your money turned back on. The waiver program didn't exist. It was pretend, right? Like all of this is pretend. Nobody was getting waivers because there was nobody to process the waivers because they'd fired 98% of the staff. And so I did a long sort of statement yesterday, an expose yesterday on what we had found out with the waiver process, and we will continue to highlight how they lie over and over and over again about what they're actually doing. But the good news is that at least for the time being, until the case moves its way up the court system, our USAID personnel are back on the ground saving lives all around the world.
On that point, your son works for an NGO contractor. And let me just add about USAID, this is just a small example. Everybody assumes $40 billion going to USAID is just shelled out to people abroad. Well, it employs Americans. and it buys soybeans, corn, and wheat from American farmers. It buys pharmaceutical drugs from American manufacturers. Here again, we need to dispel the disinformation and misinformation, and across the board, make sure that people understand it is good as a humanitarian program. It's good because it serves our political self-interest abroad to prevent China from filling the vacuum and stopping terrorism, but it's also in our self-interest. And on that question, I think that we need to get Congress and the courts to protect themselves against the overreach from the executive branch. It's not just this administration, it's a continuing process, and it's not just on foreign policy, it's on executive policy. You know, the Secretary of Transportation, day before yesterday, sent out a directive that he is going to allocate administration money for transportation based on marriage rates and numbers of children. Can you imagine something more absurd, but also more illegal? And he's doing it with a directive that needs to be challenged. So we need to make sure that the executive branch is not usurping powers in every sphere and bring it to light.
Let's go. We're going to do, we can do three, we can do three more on either side, and then we got our day.
Hi, I'm from Connecticut, and I'm worried about our right to vote in Canada. With the Section 26 Canadian use that. And we can use that as a test.
Oh, yeah.
And this is why. When Trump was speaking to a Christian women's group while he was campaigning, he said, "You don't have to worry about ever voting again." And other, not a lot of stuff beyond that. This was on the network, and so